Hi guys, here's Paula, the crazy ozone lady, and I'm starting something new. So this is an ozone news dispatch. So let's see how this goes. Let's see if I will be able to keep this up. So basically, the idea is to basically summarize all the stories and all the new ozone products and all the articles that have been published about ozone, and to basically present any ozone related news. And this month and in the past weeks, there have been quite some stories relating to ozone that were quite interesting. And so I want to inform people about them, because ozone therapy and alternative medicine in general is under attack yet again. This seems to be a never-ending struggle. But first of all, some self-promotion. So just letting you know that the discount code for my book DIV for the Super Paranoid, it expires on November the 1st. So it will be valid only for the next, only until November the 1st. So if you were thinking about buying the book, but you haven't yet, then this is the time to do it. So for this, you just go to thepowerofozone.com/shop, and you will be directed here to this page. And then when you click here, you can buy the book. And so if you are subscribed to my newsletter, then you should have received a discount code, which you then can type in here, and then you will get a discount for 50%. If you have not received, if you are not subscribed to the newsletter, you have not received the discount code, then please subscribe. And subscribe by going to thepowerofozone.com/news, and there you can subscribe. And if some future discounts and sales will be available, then you will be notified. What else? Okay, one other thing. So to anyone who bought my book, there is actually in chapter 16, there's a discount code for the one-on-one training. So basically, when you buy the book, you have the option, later when you fill this out, you have the option to book the one-on-one training, which is a video online training how to do DIV ozone injections with me, and you have the option to buy it at a discounted price. But if you do not buy the training together with the book, then once you have the book, you can still book the training at the discounted price by going to chapter 16 and then clicking on a link which is inserted into the book, and it will direct you to the booking page. And then you can also type in a discount code which is also in the book. So the discount for the training is basically, so as long as you have the book, it is valid. So if you're interested in booking the training, you can do so. You can do so at a discount when you have if you have bought the book. Okay, another piece of self-promotion is that I put out another free resource. So basically, so if you're in the shop, so again, you go to thepowerofozone.com/shop, and so here you can buy the book, here you can buy the training. But when you scroll further down, you have here free resources. Okay, and so here you have a guide to how to decide how to buy an ozone generator for home ozone treatments. Here you have another resource for with settings for the 5 most popular treatments. Here you have kind of a cool overview that tells you how much ozone is used in all the different ozone IVs. And here, this is a new thing. This is This is a one-page cheat sheet that helps you decide and tells you what you need for 6 of the most popular ozone treatments. So you can simply download this and this is another free resource. So this is, you see, there's lots of cool stuff in the shop, so it's worth checking it out. Okay, well then let's move to the first story. So this is something that has been published in Bloomberg Business Week. And if you were a little shocked about the title of this live stream, where I said that LLMDs are killing patients, but this is exactly what this article here alleges. It says dubious alternative Lyme treatments are killing patients. And so although this article is not specifically about ozone therapy actually appears 3 times in the article. So what this article is about is that basically Lyme literate medical doctors, they are using non-conventional treatments to treat Lyme patients, and this has resulted in several deaths and other complications. And so Bloomberg Business Week here basically raises alarm and informs people that there is a threat that threatens people's lives, and those are Lyme literate medical doctors. And so what they say here, you see, so I forwarded here to the spots where they mention ozone therapy. So what they say that basically LLMDs, they have become more and more common and more popular, and that is because they admit, and the CDC admits, that there's between 30,000 and 300,000 people per year who contract Lyme disease, and many of them turn out to be like they never recover, but they still have lingering symptoms even after they are given antibiotics. And so those patients often suffer for many years, and they feel ignored by conventional doctors, and they cannot find help. They cannot find help through the usual routes, and so they seek out alternative practitioners. And those practitioners, they use things like, for example, long-term antibiotics, ozone therapy, and horror of horrors, vitamin supplements. And here Bloomberg Business Week says the results include a pattern of harm. Patients, family members, physicians, and government officials describe LLMDs routinely misdiagnosing Lyme disease instead of other treatable conditions and injuring patients. Many of these stories have effectively been buried, quashed by confidentiality agreements struck during litigation, papered over by bureaucratic procedures, stuck in limbo between agencies, or redacted as they pass through layers of compliance. But internal government documents obtained by Bloomberg Business Week through a Freedom of Information Act requested show that physicians at the CDC are aware of malpractice allegations at a constellation of private clinics. And so it goes on to say, and it describes a number of cases where the insertion of a central catheter in order to be able to administer antibiotics intravenously for a longer time, that such a procedure has resulted in a number of patients, has resulted in staph infections and at least in 1 death. And so basically the whole message of this article is that basically doctors, and we're talking here about medical doctors, okay, so those are not some naturopaths or some alternative doctors. No, those are conventionally trained doctors, medical doctors, MDs, who are using also, in many cases, conventional methods. Intravenous antibiotic administration is a conventional method. The insertion of a central catheter, this is also something that's approved by regulators. But they're still doing things which are outside of the standard of care and outside of what the CDC and the FDA recommends. And so some complications arise. So the whole message of this article is that, just because those doctors are doing things outside of the box, and some complications have arisen, some people died even, that this is some big threat. And the problem is the lack of regulation and lack of oversight, and just in general the fact that doctors are allowed to do such things, that they are allowed to act and think outside of the box. And there's also a lot of emotional appeal. So there are several cases that are presented of people who have been harmed, and there's a lot of emotional tear-jerking. And so this article follows this usual pattern. That basically, there's a lot of emotional manipulation, basically, and a lack of context. So, because they want us to believe that basically if those doctors were only doing what all the other doctors are doing, that if they were only following the rules, if they were only keeping to the standard of care, then this would not have happened. And if there only was more regulation. And of course, this is, if you look at the bigger picture, if you look at the fact that the things which do most harm in medicine are things which are heavily regulated, then you understand that this does not hold up to scrutiny. And also this article largely appears to hinge on those cases that the CDC published in 2017. And so this is the page here of the CDC. And so they present 5 different cases, okay, patient A, B, C, D, E. And so all of those cases were cases where a peripherally inserted central catheter was inserted. So this is something, so this is basically an access into a vein that is permanent, and that is either happens here, I believe here on the chest, or sometimes it can also be, I think, on the arm. And so this is something, this is a central catheter, kind of like an access basically that allows for the administration, for the intravenous administration of antibiotics or other fluids for a long time. And so what happened is that basically in all of those cases an infection occurred. So all those people, they developed either a staph infection or a sepsis because of this catheter. And they presented that as if the problem was that the doctors use alternative methods to treat Lyme disease. But what is missing here is that they do not compare how often those catheters get infected in general. So it doesn't matter whether they're used to administer intravenous antibiotics or in order to administer chemotherapy or some other drugs. But when you look into this, when you research this, then you find out that this is actually not rare. So this is something that's the risk, it's a real risk, and it is relatively high with those catheters. So this is not necessarily something that is unique to Lyme treatments. So there's a lot of misrepresentation and a lot of things that, as I said, there's a lot of emotional manipulation, emotional tear jerking, and things are not put in context as usual. And we don't know. Okay, so there are a few cases where people developed serious complications. They had to be hospitalized. They developed sepsis and ended up in the intensive care unit. And so this is really serious. But the thing is, we never find out from reading this article is how the occurrence of complications in patients under the care of LLMDs compares to complications in patients under the care of conventional doctors who are not Lyme literate medical doctors. So we never find this out. And now, given that those 5 cases that are presented here by the CDC, that those cases, those were patients who were treated in 4 years between 2013 and 2017. So this is so to have 5 serious complications in a time frame of 4 years. This is exceptionally low rate of complications. Now, we don't know if this is all that happens, but if it was, this is very, very low. Given that we know that per year around between 100 and 200,000 people die in the US alone because of conventional medical treatments. So those are medical treatments which often, those are drugs which are properly prescribed, properly administered, and this results in 100 to 200,000 cases, dead people per year in just one country alone. And some people say that the number is actually much higher, that this is up to 400,000 people if you include medical errors and if you include surgeries and other medical interventions. So if all they can show are 5 cases of complications in a time frame of 4 years, I think this is exceptionally low. But you would never know this from reading here this article on Bloomberg Business Week. So this article here, this is just another attempt to discredit alternative practitioners. And so you see, those are not even alternative practitioners, because those are conventionally trained medical doctors who just dare to use conventional treatments in a different way. So this is another way to emotionally manipulate readers and to basically stoke this fear against alternative treatments and present alternative therapists as a threat to society. And and because ozone therapy is mentioned as part of those alternative Lyme treatments, then this of course also seeks to discredit this crazy Lyme treatment. And so there's another article which tries to basically do exactly the same, and it follows just the same pattern, that things are completely taken out of context, or there's a lack of context, and again appeal to authority, and again the message is that if things were only stricter, if there were only stricter regulations, and if there were only no alternative doctors whatsoever, and if people were just following the conventional medical treatments, then no complications would ever occur. So here what happened is, this is an article published on MSN News, and it has some typos and it seems to have been very hastily written, but nevertheless, let's read it. So here, doctor warns against bogus treatment after CT woman's ozone therapy nightmare. CT, I guess, stands for Connecticut. So bogus treatment. Bogus treatment, this refers to ozone saunas. So it says here, a Cape Talk listener named Cara has suffered serious lung damage after inhaling harmful gas during an ozone therapy treatment session. Oxygen chamber therapy is a popular procedure in which users climb into an ozone pod with their head out of the top of the pod while steam and an ozone-oxygen mixture circulates inside the unit. Caro booked an appointment for an ozone treatment at a beauty salon called Skin in Hout Bay, I don't know how to pronounce this, last month. She ended up inhaling gas when the tank was hastily opened due to an equipment malfunction during her treatment. Now, this is something that does not quite make sense in my opinion, because so they say here that basically what happened, that she breathed in too much ozone because of an equipment malfunction, which was that the tank, so the oxygen tank, was opened too hastily, and so she ended inhaling ozone gas. It doesn't say here ozone gas, but it's clear that that's what it has to be. So why this does not make sense to me is because when you open a tank hastily, so I guess they mean that if the oxygen flow is higher than you intended, then this results in the ozone concentration being much, much lower. So I'm not sure how this could have resulted in too much ozone having been dispersed, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's possible that they simply omitted to inform her that she needs to protect herself from breathing the ozone, or that they just didn't take care to protect her from breathing ozone. They either did not supply a towel or a mask or a fan or a combination of those things, because those need to be in place in order to prevent people from breathing in ozone. So maybe they didn't do this. They did it too late, and she ended up breathing ozone. So it goes on to say, while the beauty salon has paid for her medical bills, Caro says her breathing has been significantly impaired as she currently uses an inhaler because of ongoing respiratory side effects. So this is definitely a risk with any type of ozone treatment. So, and this is I always educate people, I always tell people that they have to protect themselves from accidentally breathing too much ozone when they do ozone treatments at home. So this is, or at home or at a practitioner's office, doesn't matter. So this is really important, because if ozone is accidentally breathed in too high concentrations for too long, at too high amounts, then it can definitely do damage to lungs. Now, usually the damage passes really quickly, and people recover within hours, sometimes days. But yes, there are cases where the damage can last for quite a long time, and this appears to be such a case. So definitely something went wrong. And she appears, Caro, the patient or the client appears to have breathed in too much ozone. And she says, I now have to use a steroid inhaler daily and go for more tests in 3 months to see if there's an improvement. I cannot tell you how debilitating and anxious this has made me, Caro has told consumer journalist Wendy Knoller. Knoller says ozone therapy is often marketed as a wellness treatment that has a range of medical benefits, including immune-boosting properties and skin rejuvenation. Then what else? Okay, here you see this is, I think they forgot here some question marks, so it's not clear whether someone is being quoted or not. And it says, given that it's 2020, some of the marketing here and abroad is on the back of boosting the immune system in light of COVID-19. However, medical doctor Dr. Harris Steinman says ozone therapy is a scam which can have harmful health consequences. Okay, now who is Dr. Harris Steinman? Is he trained in ozone therapy? How does he know about ozone therapy? Is he an ozone expert? Has he ever treated people with ozone therapy? So how is he qualified to have an opinion about ozone therapy? We don't know. Like, this is not explained in the article. And he says ozone therapy is a scam which can have harmful health consequences. Well, yes, well, this is true for literally everything. Like, everything can have harmful health consequences. Like, life itself has harmful health consequences because the consequence of life is death. Drinking water can result in death. Around 5,000 people every year die because they choke on food. So eating can have harmful health consequences. Eating sugar can have harmful health consequences and lead to diabetes. And yet, Dr. Harris Steinman does not say cake is a scam which can have harmful consequences. No, he is only focusing on ozone therapy and does not, again, nothing is put into context. He does not say how many people per year are being harmed by ozone saunas versus how many ozone saunas per year are being performed safely. We don't know this. Like, how does ozone therapy, in his opinion, how does it compare to any other conventional medical treatment? We know that, for example, NSAIDs, so those are anti-inflammatory medication, many of which can be bought over the counter. They lead to thousands of deaths per year in the US alone. So also over-the-counter medication can have harmful health consequences. He says the medical benefits of ozone therapy have not been scientifically proven and it remains a controversial form of alternative medicine. And here again, if it's alternative, if it's outside of the regulators, if it's outside of conventional medicine, then it's dangerous. Okay, well, but if we look further here into this, a little deeper into this statement, so he says, the medical benefits of ozone therapy have not been scientifically proven. Well, there are actually many different scientific studies about ozone therapy. I admit that many of them are of really poor quality, but nevertheless, there is quite a significant number of studies who have been performed with ozone therapy. So, and one can say that some of the ozone treatments have actually been scientifically proven. But again, one has to put everything in context because when he says this, then he makes it look as if everything that is in conventional medicine is scientifically proven, whereas this is not the case. So, for example, when you look at cardiology, so the area in medicine that deals with heart and heart disease, so we know that only 15% of all the procedures which are practiced in cardiology are actually scientifically proven, in the sense that there are randomized, controlled and placebo-controlled studies which prove that those procedures are actually effective. Only 15% in cardiology alone. Then there are many such things which are used in conventional medicine for which there's no scientific proof at all. For example, there is this documentary on Netflix, Cutting Edge, I believe it is called, and it shows how many many appliances which are used in conventional medicine, which are used by surgeons, they actually have no direct FDA approval at all. But they just, so there are no studies necessary to prove that a certain, I don't know, a certain device that will be implanted into a human being is actually safe and effective. And I don't know if it was the same documentary or another documentary. It showed the immense harm that has been caused to many, many women who used those spirals. I don't know, there's probably some specific words that describes them. So there's like a metal spirals that are inserted into women, into the cervix, and this is a form of contraception. And so those spirals, they tend to become part of the tissue, and it becomes impossible to remove them. And in some cases, the spiral actually goes into the tissue and just causes horrendous pain, and it becomes impossible to remove the spiral, not even surgically. And there's this one documentary, I believe it is that same one, Cutting Edge, on Netflix, that follows a number of women and who just describe the horror that they have, the horrors that they have been through because of those FDA approved contraceptive devices, those spirals that were implanted into their bodies. So again, this idea that when something is approved by the FDA, and if it is part of conventional medicine, if it is not alternative medicine, so it is proof, and so it is safe and effective, and there is no danger associated with it. This is complete nonsense. The most dangerous things in medicine are FDA approved. Another case in point is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a highly toxic substance that causes secondary cancers. This is something that is well documented, and this is FDA approved. And there's many other drugs that there's dozens and dozens of drugs that had to be taken off the market in the past decades because they proved to be very dangerous, and they proved to cause deaths. And all of those drugs were originally FDA approved. So just because something is FDA approved, and just because it is part of conventional medicine and scientifically proven, doesn't mean that it is safe. So this is another way to try to manipulate people into thinking that ozone therapy, because it's alternative, it is dangerous and scientifically unproven. And so the standard quote that he uses here again, in 2018, the FDA in the United States stated that ozone is toxic and has no proven medical applications. Dr. Steinman warns that unqualified people are administering ozone, making false health claims without any regulatory oversight. Again, all we need is more regulatory oversight. This will fix everything. Well, no, there are many things which are regulated and which do great harm. So just because something becomes regulated doesn't mean that it becomes safe all of a sudden. Ozone therapy is one of the biggest scams around, practiced by a lot of alternative medicine users based on very flimsy research. Again, another attempt to try to scare people away and to try to present ozone therapy as a scam. Dr. Harris Steinman says ozone can be extremely harmful, not just to the skin. On inhalation, it can cause lung damage, and there have been reported deaths from ozone therapy. Well, yes, there have also been reported deaths from chiropractic adjustments. There have been reported deaths from people drinking water, eating food, choking on food, from taking over-the-counter drugs, and so on and so forth. So this is another idea that is always presented when there is talk about alternative treatments, that somehow alternative treatments are supposed to never cause any complications, never cause a single death. And of course, no treatment can fulfill such a high condition. This is impossible that something could not cause harm in some way. So yes, this woman, it appears that she got harmed. I absolutely believe that this is possible, because great care should be taken to make sure that people do not inhale ozone. But again, we don't know how often did this happen. Why did this happen? Did the spa not provide appropriate measures to prevent her from breathing ozone? And like how many ozone saunas in total have they performed safely versus how many complications are there? So this is a typical pattern that this article follows, and it is, in my opinion, really important to be aware of this pattern, which is really just a form of emotional manipulation. So they take just one case, do not present any context, do not inform the reader about how often this complication happens, how representative this one case is for other cases. And then they take one expert, but they do not disclose like what makes that person an expert. My speculation is also that, maybe Dr. Harris Steinman, maybe he actually did not say any of the things that he was quoted to say here, but he was maybe just asked, hey, Dr. Harris Steinman, we want to do this hatchet job on ozone therapy, and is it okay if we put just some words in your mouth and present it as if you said them? And he said, yeah, that's fine, yeah. And that's probably how it went, because like you always read the same things. It's really a pattern. It's like a template. It's like as if they were copying stuff from each other. Like they say always exactly the same things. So yeah, be careful with ozone. Make sure you don't breathe it in. But even with all the complications that have ever happened in ozone therapy, ozone treatments are still some of the safest there are. Their safety is really incomparable with conventional medical treatments. The rate is very, very low. All right, what do we have next? Next thing is, okay, this does not have anything to do directly with ozone therapy, but it has to do with ozone hole. And so this has to do with science. And so for those who are old enough to remember, then they know that in the 1980s and then up until the 1990s, there was this scare of the ozone hole. So before there was a climate change hysteria, there was the ozone hole hysteria. So what is the ozone hole? So the ozone hole is a hole in the ozone layer. So the ozone layer is a very, very tiny layer of ozone up in our atmosphere. And scientists have observed that there is a hole that appears cyclically, especially above the South Pole. I believe the North Pole also has an ozone hole, but it may be smaller. Okay, I'm not sure about this. But the one above the South Pole is the biggest and the most famous ones. And so in 30-40 years ago, it was believed that this ozone hole was caused by a chemical which was used in hairsprays and in refrigerators. And this chemical, or this class of chemicals, was called, let me find this real quick here, I think chlorofluorocarbons. Let's see. Right, yes, chlorofluorocarbons. that were in refrigerators and also hairspray. So the idea was 30, 40 years ago is that those chemicals that were produced by humans, that then they went up into the atmosphere and they were causing the ozone to break down, and this would cause death and destruction because the ozone hole, it protects us from radiation, from UV light radiation, and without the ozone hole, people would be dying en masse. And so what had to happen is those chemicals had to be banned and the ozone hole had to be fixed to save the planet. And so that's exactly what happened. So they banned those chemicals, and from the year 2000, more or less, like basically now or only negligible amounts of this chemical was produced and released it into the atmosphere. But it appears that this had absolutely no effect on the ozone hole. And so here we read that in 2020, ozone hole among deepest and largest ever. Why are scientists not worried? And now this is really interesting. Why are scientists not worried? That is because in the meantime, scientists have finally understood that the ozone hole is a natural cyclical phenomenon that has absolutely nothing to do with those chlorofluorocarbons, but instead it has to do with three different things. Number one, with ice, sun, and wind patterns. Those were not number one, it was number 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now where does it say here? Okay, however, despite the alarming changes, not many scientists are concerned about any major impacts on Earth, mainly because it appears to be just a seasonal phenomenon. According to the European Space Agency, the ozone hole increases in size from August to October every year and reaches its maximum between mid-September and mid-October. So this is a seasonal, natural phenomenon that occurs between August to October. And it's predominantly present in the southern hemisphere. The depletion mainly happens when the temperature over the stratosphere starts to vary. The ESA, so this is this European Space Agency, explains that when temperatures in the stratosphere start to rise over the continent, the ozone depletion slows, the polar vortex weakens, and by the end of December, ozone levels return to normal. The polar vortex is a weather system responsible for delivering cold air to the polar regions, and this year scientists have recorded it to be one of the strongest. So, as per World Meteorological Organization, the polar stratospheric clouds formed over ozone can easily contribute to the chemical destruction of ozone when the temperature drops to minus 78 degrees Celsius. The clouds contain ice crystals that can destroy the ozone when mixed with sunlight. This kickstarts a chemical reaction which turns non-reactive compounds in ozone into reactive ones. So what else do they say here? As per the ESA, the variability of the ozone hole size is largely determined through the strength of a strong wind band around Antarctica. So it's a combination between ice crystals, sun, and winds around Antarctica, which determine the size of the ozone hole. This is not a man-made phenomenon, and meteorologists, this tongue breaker for me, they recognize this. So this is another thing that was a scientific consensus 30 or 40 years ago and now has been completely debunked, and most scientists recognize that the ozone hole has nothing to do with any chemicals that we produce or emit into the atmosphere. So I think this is something to keep in mind on the topic of scientific consensus and hysteria, which is fueled by activists, scientists. All right. Next story. Success. FDA finally issues amalgam warning. Now, this does not have anything to do with ozone therapy, but this is also interesting in the whole context of scientifically proven and things that are regulated or not regulated. So Dr. Mercola here wrote at the beginning of October this article, which is really interesting and which packed with information, and which informs that the FDA has finally changed their stance on amalgam fillings. So amalgam fillings contain mercury, up to 50%. They're made out of mercury, and many consumers, they claim that they have been damaged by mercury and by amalgam fillings. And there has been efforts were underway, people trying to convince the FDA to ban amalgam fillings. And now finally, in 2020, FDA has finally issued an amalgam warning, and now the FDA says that children and pregnant women should not have amalgam fillings. So the dentist should not put amalgam fillings into the teeth of children and pregnant women, and also people with neurological diseases, impaired kidney function, or heightened sensitivity to mercury or other amalgam components. Now, but what is interesting here when you read this is that the fact that the FDA changed their stance has absolutely nothing to do with any scientific finding. So, because many people, they make the argument, oh, if it's not FDA approved, it's because there is no scientific proof that this works. And many people make exactly that argument in regards to ozone therapy. So they say ozone therapy is not FDA approved because most likely there is no scientific proof that it works. And if there was scientific proof, then the FDA would improve it immediately, right? But no, and this is wrong. This is a wrong argument. So whether something is FDA approved or not, or whether something has a warning from the FDA or not, has nothing to do with scientific research, as it turns out. And this change in FDA's stance on amalgam fillings proves just this. Because the reason why they changed their stance on amalgam fillings has actually nothing to do with any research. So there's no new study that now conclusively shows that amalgam fillings are dangerous. Nothing like this. The reason why they changed their stance is because there was pressure. So, and the pressure came from a consumer group. So this is something that's been going on for years and decades. And there are several lawsuits that this consumer group won over the years. And so now finally the FDA decided to relent to this pressure, and they finally issued the amalgam warning. And I think this fact that the FDA gave in to pressure from a consumer group and changed their stance not because of some scientific research. This is the real story here, because this really blows this whole idea of, FDA approved means there is scientific proof of safety and efficacy. This completely blows it out of the water. This is just simply completely proves that this argument is bogus. You can't make this argument. And, I believe that this doesn't really have a lot of many consequences for people in general, because most people don't get amalgam fillings put in their teeth. The dentists who still use amalgam fillings are just a tiny minority. So the consumer behavior has changed over the years and decades, regardless of what the FDA was saying. And so the FDA is really here just trying to catch up with what the public has decided for itself, regardless of the FDA's findings. Okay, another story here. So now we're coming to the new ozone products. So this is a new product that has been promoted by Dave Asprey of the Bulletproof Coffee fame. So he has announced here this new product, and this is actually today is the first day that the first batches of this product will be shipped out. So it's called biocharged resistor, and what this is, it's a quantum charged ozonated oil, and specifically it's sunflower oil. Now the claims here are pretty crazy, I would have to say. I mean, there's wording here that is just, in my opinion, sounds like complete gibberish. Let's see if I can find this. Okay, here. Let's see. Here, after the oil is ozonated, we then treat it using a variable frequency driver to create a plasma field proximate to the active treatment vessel. After the field effect has reached threshold culminating in a stimulated resonant entrainment, pulsed lasers are fired through a series of beam splitters and mirrors to create incidence/reference beam interaction, producing an interference pattern. I mean, this is just, in my opinion, this is just gibberish. Like, nobody understands what this is all about, but nevertheless, they claim that there's some science behind it. Now, my stance is that ozonated oil, this is just another form of ozonated oil. So ozonated oils have been used for decades in medicine, and in Germany, for example, you can buy ozonated oils at the pharmacy. You can buy many different forms of ozonated oils. They're called RIS oils here. So ozonated oils definitely have a place in medicine and alternative medicine. But those guys here, they claim that they use an old technique by Nikola Tesla. So they say that Nikola Tesla, that he used to charge oils first magnetically. And only then would he ozonate the oils. And so apparently they say that this is what they're doing here, and this results in quantum charged ozonated oil, and supposedly it has to have some special health effects. Of course, this is, they don't provide any proof whatsoever that this is the case. In my opinion, it still may be a valid supplement, mostly because I believe it comes in capsules, although it is not completely clear. I hope so. Now this is what is pretty frustrating, what I find. So here, supplement facts, I want to see the facts, but it is so small you can't really read anything. So you cannot see the ingredients, like quantum charged ozonated organic sunflower oil. But does it come in capsules or what? I hope it does, because so this is my problem, because ozonated oils are really, like, this is the most disgusting thing that you can taste if you put it in your mouth. So if it comes in capsules, that would be a good thing, because then you don't have to taste the disgusting taste of the oil. So it may be really a good product, maybe even better than other comparable products on the market. The website, the presentation is definitely really amazing. So let's see what the first reports will be by users. As I said, it comes out today, so today is the first day that you can actually get it. All right, now the next thing that has become available, and this is really amazing in my opinion, and I think that this is probably because what's happening. That this is because of some coronavirus deregulatory measures that have been implemented. So now you can buy industrial oxygen tank, but already filled on Amazon. So this is pretty cool. Okay, it's not cheap. All right, so the bottle, it's $231. Okay, what's happening with my computer here? Okay, sorry about this. $231, but it's 40 cubic feet. So this is a lot of oxygen. This is really a big ass bottle. So this is actually not a bad price. And you can buy it now with a few clicks on Amazon. I mean, oh my God, what is happening here? I keep clicking on something, and sorry about that. So this is something really, really cool, and you can find a link to this below in the description of my video. You can just go on Amazon and search here for this and get oxygen, industrial oxygen delivered free to your home. So industrial oxygen, you can use it for anything and everything. Ozone related, for any type of ozone treatments. I personally would not use it for ozone injections because, as I mentioned a number of times in my articles, there was at least one person who tested their industrial oxygen and turned out to be at, I believe, 96%, which is not high enough for intravenous ozone injections. But you can use this oxygen probably for anything else. You can use it for insufflations, to do ozone water, ozone saunas, whatever else you like. Okay, another great new product are those Lure-Lock silicone catheters by Promolife. So conventional Lure-Lock catheters, so you see here, this top here, this is a so-called Lure-Lock connector, and this is really convenient and really practical because you can now screw this Lure-Lock catheter directly onto a syringe, and then you can perform any type of insufflations through a syringe. And so having a Lure-Lock catheter is really a great solution, but most Lure-Lock catheters, they are not made out of silicone but out of PVC. And here Promolife has, instead of PVC, they have now combined the Lure-Lock end with a silicone tubing, so with a silicone catheter. So this makes it extra ozone resistant, and you can reuse it many times. So this is especially if you're doing vaginal insufflations, for example. This is super convenient. And again, you will find links to the products in the description of the video. Okay, another new thing, this is from Simplio3. Okay, this is not quite new. This has been up on their website for quite a while, but I never came around to inform people about this. So they have this ozone generator, which is not as popular as their Stratus models that they have. And so this is, you see, so this is the ozone output chart, and it has pretty good settings. And so it has good settings. It has a lot of many different settings. So this makes it pretty attractive for home users, I would say. So this is a new / not so new ozone generator. Or I think the technology may be actually not new, but they may have just changed the casing of the machine. But this is, for ozone fans, this may be something interesting thing to look into. And you see there's a dial knob, so you can change the intensity, the ozone concentration through this dial knob. And the ozone output is a Lure-Lock output, which is great. I love Lure-Lock connectors. They make ozone treatments and handling ozone equipment so much easier. All right, next thing is, okay, so this is the Power of Ozone DAV package. So this may be interesting to anyone who has bought my book. And if you don't have your ozone equipment yet, then you can order your package with which you will be able to perform DIV ozone injections according to the DIV for the super paranoid method. You can order it on PromoLife. So I have put together a package, an ozone package, specifically for this DIV for the super paranoid method. So this package comes already with oxygen, with tanks filled with 99.6% pure oxygen. You will get a syringe filling station, you will get syringes, you will get extra silicone tubing, and a filter and locks and ozone generator. And so my favorite is the dual cell, but you can really select any ozone generator that you like. And here you can either select it with the tanks, or you can also opt to, for example, just get the regulator for the CGA 870, so for the medical tank, and then order a filled medical tank at omssupply.com, where you do not need a prescription. So you can just get the regulator here from PromoLife, and you will need this special low flow regulator, and the generator and all the other stuff, and then the oxygen you will get at OMS Supply. And so this package here, this covers basically most of the things that you need for to be able to perform DIV for the super paranoid method. You will only need, in addition, the the butterfly needles, 27G, and the supplies like band-aids, cotton pads, disinfectant, sharps bin, and a tourniquet, and all that you can buy on Amazon. So yeah, anyone who bought my book and who is interested in performing DIV according to the DIV for the super paranoid method, then this is the perfect package for it. And it is also in chapter 16. You will find a link to this package, and also a code that will give you 7% off on the on this product. All right, next point. Let's come to the ozone testimonials. So the ozone testimonials are, number one is of course the interview that I did with Ramona, who was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and she used vaginal ozone insufflations and meat-based diet, where she was eating meat every day, and pancreatic enzymes, and also other supplements that were part of the Nicolas Gonzalez protocol in order to treat herself for cervical cancer. And she has seen quite amazing results. I don't want to say too much because the thought police is watching, but you will find a link to the interview again in the description below this video. Next great testimonial comes from Dr. Robert Rowan. So here, this deals with a practitioner who has injected himself with hyaluronic acid. Now, hyaluronic acid is a dermal filler, so it is used to treat wrinkles, for example. And so this person has performed a injection with hyaluronic acid on his elbow, I believe, and he accidentally injected the hyaluronic acid. No, I think it was his wrist. I don't know, elbow or wrist. I don't remember anymore. But he accidentally injected the hyaluronic acid into his artery, and the filler went into his arm, and you can see it caused here necrosis. So you see his fingertips turned black, so they were dying off. This is dying tissue that was lacking that was lacking blood circulation because the hyaluronic acid basically blocked the capillaries, and so there was a risk of amputation. And so he was pretty desperate. He didn't know what to do. You see how black it was here. This is basically necrotic tissue already. And so he was pretty desperate, and just kind of as an experiment, Dr. Rowan then decided to inject ozone into him, but also intra-arterially. So he injected the ozone into the artery of the patient, and amazingly he recovered. So the blood circulation was reestablished. Where is the footage? Here, look how healthy it looks again. This is amazing. And he injected only a tiny amount. I believe it was just 20 cc, or was it 10 cc of the ozone? And look what happens. So this is amazing. Look at the fingers; they look completely transformed. So I hope that the man completely recovered. It looks like he has. And so this is another amazing thing that apparently ozone can do. Okay, now we're coming to the next ozone testimonial. This is, no, sorry, I'm misclicking again. Okay, where am I here? Okay, another ozone testimonial. So this is not as amazing. This is kind of the standard effect that we've learned to know from prolozone injections. So this man here was suffering from a meniscus tear in his knee, and this did not allow him to function properly. He said that he was not even able to play with his kids anymore, and he had to ask other people to help him out. And he was in quite a great deal of suffering and pain. And then he received prolozone treatments, but it isn't quite clear how many of the treatments he received. And he says that he now he can play with his kids again, and he even started running and exercising. So this is quite an amazing transformation. And what is interesting is there is so much money that is being spent per year in essentially every country of the world on surgeries to repair joint problems. And when I hear such stories, I ask myself, how much money could be saved, and how many people could be improved with a much, much easier method by simply injecting ozone into their joints. All right, so this is it. Okay, this took over an hour. Guys, I didn't know it would take so long. I hope to do this again in the future, so if some interesting stories in the ozone world will come up, then hopefully I will be able to inform you again about all the news and interesting things and new ozone products and so on. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.